Hey guys, welcome back. It's Chris and Carly. We appreciate you coming back and spending some time with us. And today, we're actually going to be talking about the tools that we started off with as we started, when we first got the girls, and some things that we kind of acquired along the way. Some of these really probably fairly mandatory. You should really have them if you're going to be keeping ball pythons, and then a couple that might be a little bit optional just depending on your situation. So we'll just get right into it, right? So the first thing is pretty simplistic, right? And that is really just a measurement of, or a way to record, right? So we just have a notebook. Obviously, we've only got 2 snakes right now. We're keeping up with, what are we keeping up with for them?
Weight. What they eat.
Yeah, when they eat.
Yeah, when they were born.
That's right. Obviously, when they shed, they haven't shed yet. We haven't had them. We've only had them about 3 weeks now, so they haven't shed out yet. But we'll record all that kind of stuff. So seems fairly simplistic, but something to record your information on about your snakes. Now, if we ever got more snakes, or certainly some of the breeders out there, there are electronic apps that you can get on your phone. That you can use on your iPad, your computer, and all of that stuff is kept digitally for you. But right now, a notebook and a pen works great for us. So, Carly, what's our second item? Feeding tongs. Yeah, that's right. So you guys have actually seen in a couple of videos now how we use the feeding tongs. These here are actually, I believe they're the 12-inch feeding tongs. I believe they were $10. I mean, they're not very expensive. They're going to last, I would think, the majority of the time that we have these snakes. But what you don't want to do, you will see a lot of people on YouTube holding the rat or the mouse by the tail and just kind of dangling it. You can certainly do that. We're not comfortable doing that, right? Because the snake could potentially miss. If it does miss a strike, it could hit your hand, and man, that just ends bad for everybody. So feeding tongs, definitely a must when you start out with ball pythons. Carly, what's our third item there? A heat gun, absolutely. So these guys, for what they are and the expense of these, it's a must-to-have for any snake or reptile owner. So this is an infrared heat gun. So basically, the way that this works is you hit the little target here, or I'm sorry, the little trigger here. It gives you this digital readout. You probably can't see that at all, but you can just you can see the light there, and you can keep it in one spot. You can kind of do a range, and it'll give you a range over everything. This is so easy to use whenever we're getting in the tubs. We can see what it is. We can see what their water temperature is at. We can see what their hot spot is at. You guys have seen that we have the Exoterra hides in there. They like to hang out on top of the hide, so we can see what the top of the hide is at, literally with just the squeeze of a trigger. It does have a Celsius or Fahrenheit button. Should you require it in Celsius, we use Fahrenheit here. So, but again, I think $15, $20 and a must-have if you're going to start keeping ball pythons. All right, Carly, what's our third item here?
Scale.
It's a scale. That's right. So this is our digital scale. You probably have not seen this. You've seen us take some weights, but you haven't actually seen the scale. This one's really cool. It's the Vivarium Electronics DS6000. So it's got a digital readout there. Again, you probably can't see that. I don't know if the phone's picking up. Yeah, it's kind of picking it up there. You can see that digital readout. On-off button. It's got a tear, so it comes with this cool little holder that you can place on top of it. Obviously, you want to zero that out whenever you have it on there. It's done really well, holds the snakes in there. Obviously, as they grow, we might have to have something a little bit bigger. They're not going to fit in something like this. But a really, really good scale. $20, I believe, is what we paid. One thing to note on these, at the bottom is grams and ounces. Most of the time you're going to hear folks talk about ball pythons in grams and not ounces. You could really kind of mess yourself up if you have it on ounces and not grams. So make sure if you do pick one of these up, you switch that there to grams. So, all right. What do we got next, Carly? Cleaner. Go ahead and hand me the little bottle there. So cleaner, and then a mixing bottle. So this, guys, is F10. It's basically a veterinarian disinfectant, okay? So this is what, you also hear maybe chlorhexidine is things that people will use as well. I don't believe that's the active ingredient in this one necessarily, but I figure if this is good enough for vets, it's probably pretty good for us. Basically, the way that you mix this is a concentrate, and it comes, this little side over here is actually, it's got 5 mLs and 10 mLs. For like a light cleaner, you mix 2 mLs per liter of water. for a more heavy disinfectant to kill all bacteria, fungus, and everything, which is what we actually mixed. It's 4 mLs per liter of water. This is kind of a little, like I said, a measuring cup, so it helps you out with that. But whether you're just, excuse me, cleaning things off or doing kind of the monthly deep clean, this is definitely something that you're going to want to ensure that that you're killing all the bacterial and fungus when they poop, when they pee, all the nasty stuff that they do that we get to clean up. Yeah, that's we want to make sure we have that right.
Yeah,
it is
fun.
Kind of keeping along the same lines. What's our next item here, Kylie? Hand sanitizer. Now, nothing beats, guys, hot water and soap. But sometimes in between handling even the snakes, if we're holding cutie and we want to go to bubbles or vice versa, this is a good quick little method to clean your hands, make sure that you're killing all the bacteria. If one is for some reason maybe developing a respiratory infection or anything, knock on wood, they haven't, but if they do, you certainly don't want to be passing that from snake to snake. So just some regular old dollar store hand sanitizer is a pretty good thing to have on hand, right? So, all right, what do you got here, Carly?
A traveling tote.
Yeah, a traveling tote. So y'all saw this when we brought the girls home. The reason that I put this on there, obviously, number one, if you're buying juveniles like we did, you probably want something to get them from the show or the pet store or wherever you're getting them. You need something to transport them home, right? And so that's why we have this on here, but also in between cleaning. So if you don't have another tub or another area to keep them, at least while they're juveniles, you can keep them in a tote like this. They'll stay in there just fine until you're ready to put them back in their enclosures. So these things, guys, were kind of the things I thought is really more really good to have, must have, if you want to say that. The next 3 items that we have, I kind of deem are a little bit more optional, but still good to have on hand. So I think we're on, number 8, Carly? So what's our 8th thing that we've got over here? A snake hook. The reason, guys, I don't have this, and maybe I should have this, or we should have this more in a must-have, we haven't even had to use this yet, okay? The only reason we really got this, and this is one that you can pick up, we actually got it at Petco. It's $10. It's really inexpensive. You can get really large one for really large snakes that are, $50 and $60. But the only reason we even looked into getting one of these, at least initially, is especially with ball pythons, if they are going to be nippy or bitey or anything like that, it's typically when they're smaller, right? They're little bitty snakes, and we're great big heat sources or predators to them, right? And so if there's a time that they might strike you as you're going in to get them out of their enclosure, that might be the time. So we got this. If they're ever in maybe a feeding mode, whenever you're wanting to go in and handle them, you can kind of rub them, touch them on the side, right? Kind of get them, break them out of that feeding mode a little bit, so that they know, hey, we don't have a rat, right? With this being metal and this end being plastic, it's not going to necessarily give off a heat signature to them, so you can kind of move them, get them out of that feeding mode, and this one's telescoping, so you can obviously telescope it out to there. It's roughly 2.5 feet or so, and then it just kind of collapses back down on itself. So really good to have. I would probably have this in a must-have situation if we had to use it, but we hadn't had to use it yet. Our girls have actually been really good at being handled, getting in and out of the tub, so we haven't had much use for it yet, but there might be at some point in the future we might need it. So Carly, what's our 9th item?
So
got these, right?
Thermometer.
So guys, this is something. Now I just showed you must have or have to have a heat gun, right? I mean that's a definite must. So I've got 2 different thermometers here. So we'll talk about this one first. This is just your regular Accurite thermometer, and also gives us the humidity. The reason I did this is because we don't have a snake room, right? And so we can't keep an ambient temperature of low 80s. In our room. We actually just have it in kind of a bigger playroom that the girls use. We're actually looking at maybe moving them to a smaller space in a closet that's not used. So we'll stay tuned on that. We'll probably be moving them here. But this was really good for us to kind of research our own environment and see what do we need to do? How do we make this environment the best environment for our snakes? And this told us it gives you, over a 24-hour period, it gives you the high and low humidity and the high and low temperature. So that's really good information to have so that you know how to augment that for your snakes. The next one we got is this little one, and this actually comes with 2 separate probes. So it's basically the same thing, only it's got probes here and here. So this one here is your temperature probe right there. This one is your humidity probe. Same thing here. It just tells you what it is inside the tub. Now, the heat gun tells me that too, but what I liked this one specifically for was to give me, again, an idea of what humidity was like. But then in the front of the tub specifically, at all times I can kind of monitor what that ambient temperature is. Knowing that we don't have a great low 80 ambient temperature in the room that the snakes are in, it's really good to have something like this. It's helped us at least just kind of monitor and understand and, again, augment the environment as we need to. And then finally, our last tool that is definitely an option, but something that we picked up is what? It's a probing kit. Yeah, so this one we picked up online. I think it was, I don't know, it was like $15, something like that, but you can see it comes with a number of probes there. Totally optional. The reason I say that is really just a couple of reasons that you should have this. Number one, if you plan on breeding snakes, you're going to want to know how to probe them. There is a way that some of the experienced breeders, they call popping, where they can actually pop the hemipenes out if it is a male. Obviously they don't pop out if they're a female, but with us being very, very beginners and not necessarily breeders at this point, we just wanted a very simple way to verify the snakes that we got, the 2 girls in this instance. We wanted a way that we could verify to make sure. Everyone can make mistakes, obviously. I trust the breeder that we got them from wholly, but this is a good way to verify that. So if you're just like me and you kind of wanted to do that, or if you do plan on breeding snakes, definitely a probing kit that goes from the very smallest to really, really large ones, I would think, for more like reticulated pythons or anacondas, maybe different things like that. So that's our last one, and with this being the last kind of tool that you would have, Carly, what's our fun fact for the day?
So, snakes, their tails will usually be much smaller than males.
Okay.
So males will have a little bit of longer tails.
A little bit longer tail. So when you're looking at your snake, the vent, which is at kind of the base of the tail, that's where, if it is a female, she'll lay her eggs. It's where they pee and poop and do all that fun stuff too. But males will tend to have a little bit longer tail. And in that instance, your probe, if you are probing them, should go in further. Because of their hemipenes. That's ultimately why they have a longer tail than the females do. And so, really good fun fact, and really kind of tied in great to our last little little product to have. So, guys, hey, I appreciate y'all coming along. Thank you for spending some more time with us. And Carly, what are those things that they got to do for us?
Like, subscribe, and hit the bell.
Like, subscribe, and hit the bell, guys. We appreciate you coming along. See y'all next time.